For our next YAP Talk speaker is Nyeri Richards. Nyeri is Clark County, Nevada YAP Program Director. She formerly served as Director of Advocacy and Violence Reduction and Director of Workforce Development. And before joining YAP, Nyeri was a correctional officer, and she studied pre-law at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Let's welcome Nyeri Richards.
Hello, everybody. I want everybody in the room to raise their hand if they grew up saying, I want to be a prostitute. Nobody? Think about the 10-year-old who is building a lemonade stand and selling their lemonade for 10 cents. And think about their friend down the street who's getting on their knees for $50 to support their family at 10 years old. Two different worldviews for those children, correct? One is thinking, I want to grow up to be president. I want to grow up to be a nurse, a doctor. I can be anything that I want to be. Well, the other one, only idea of a profession is selling their body. My body parts aren't how a child is supposed to be. I'm no longer a virgin properly. No boys want me. All I feel is ugly and worthless. You've caused me more and more harm every time you have sex with me, and every time I have to think about all the things that I want to do with you, that I have to do with you. And I want you to know how much you've ruined my life. Age 13. You would never want someone to pay for them to have sex with your child. Why do you keep having sex with me? Age 12. You don't care about the damage that you caused me emotionally, mentally, physically. You solely focus on the sex act and using me as an object to satisfy your desires. You don't care about my actual age, my family. You don't care if they're worried that a pimp is somewhere trying to beat me if I don't make enough money. You're selfish. Age 13. You just heard the cries of 3 victims, younger than the age of 14 years old. Those were just 3 victims. Out of about the 21 million people who are sexually trafficked, 6 million of those 21 million people are children under the age of 14. You, again, heard the cries of just 3. Those 3 victims, or should I say survivors now, came out of our Las Vegas office. My name is Nyeri Richards. Kelly so graciously introduced me earlier. I'm the Las Vegas program director. I've worn many hats in the agency, done a few things here and there. I know a lot of faces here. But my specialty, as I would say, but my passion is working with the victims who have been sexually trafficked. I started at YAP as an advocate. I initially was just an eager student from UNLV who wanted to volunteer somewhere to work with children before they got to the prison system. I stumbled upon YAP and was given my first child, my first client. She was 15 years old with 3 children. Spent the day with her, took her to the library. She was studying for her GED, because at age 16, she'd be allowed to take her GED. On the way home, she looks at me and says, Miss Nyeri, do you know where I can get an abortion? My first day. So I looked down and I didn't even realize that she was hiding this 6-month-old baby in her framed body, her 4th child, before her 16th birthday. So of course, working for YAP, we provide them the resources we can without giving any type of opinion or anything. But all I can think of is, what are you gonna do? She said, well, if you can't help me find an abortion, I'm just gonna use a hanger because I YouTubed it and I think I know how to do it. But if I have this baby, I'm not gonna be able to provide for my other ones. I'm not gonna be able to make any money. Because again, her only option, although on one end she's preparing for her GED, her only option to her only resource in making money for her family was to be a prostitute. Because that's what her mother taught her how to be at age 9. YAP works with victims through evidence-based programming using trauma-informed care. We use holistic, individualized goals, wraparound services, 24/7 crisis management. But the beautiful thing that we really do with the victims is we listen, we care, and we never stop advocating for them. My client, who now has 5 children, was able to self-study and pass her GED and go on to start school at CSN with her desires to be a nurse. While I was her advocate, she continued engaging in the life. A year later, she came to me and set some new goals for herself. But she always went back to the life. 3 years later is when she really thought about what her end game is going to be, what her 2 options truly are, how long she can continue being in this life. About 4 to 5 years after being her formal advocate through the courts, she walked in YAP stores and was done for good. She now travels the country speaking on behalf of other sexual exploited children sold by their own families. I say that because even though we were advocates in the beginning and we have to report to the probation officers in the courts, the beautiful thing about YAP was that I was allowed to maintain that relationship with her. She always knew where to go. She always knew our phone number. I taught all my girls back when I was an advocate a song so they could remember my phone number anytime that they were out. They would just sing it back and forth, back and forth. So if they had to run to a phone at a 7-Eleven or knock on a neighbor's door, they would know my number. And they call me every other month to check on me, to let me know how they're doing. And so I just wanted to come up here today to just raise a little bit of awareness. I know that you guys know a lot about sex trafficking. With some of you guys, I've traveled to your different units and trained you guys, but I just wanted you to think about what large of an epidemic this is. It's been around since 2400 BC, yet it's only really been a political issue since the 1900s, and it is the fastest growing multi-billion-dollar business in the world. The oldest and still the most profitable. And it starts with children, with the average age of entry of 12. When I was a correctional officer, a lot of the women that were in there for life were either in there for drugs or they were in there for murder. I know that back when I was in high school, and I'll tell you why I mentioned that in a moment. Back when I was in high school, all I wanted to do was wear pretty clothes and have my hair done. And although my lifestyle was kind of suburban, my parents couldn't really afford that. And so in Las Vegas, all you could really think about is how can you get those glamorous things? And so my best friend and I, we were kind of nerds, but still kind of rebellious. We went to a strip club and we asked them how we could become strippers so we could afford this really nice clothing line, which is nothing now for those that know the line Fetish by Eve, right? It was like a year, it was hot, you know. And when I went backstage and the owner of the stage actually let me interview the strippers, I was like 15, 16 years old, and I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to do this for this clothing line, but first we must do our research, right? And I interviewed the strippers, and every single one of them told me, in order for me to go out there, I have to smoke weed, I have to do coke, I have to numb myself somehow. So going back to my time as a correctional officer, a lot of the women that were in there on drugs or because of drug charges had sex trafficking indicators in their past. A lot of the women that were in there for murder were in there for murdering their abuser or an abuser. I realized when I was a correctional officer that I wanted to work with people before they got to that point, before they felt that hopeless, that they had to sell their bodies or that they had to do drugs, they had to make certain decisions. And it was almost to the day that I decided I didn't want to do corrections anymore that I stumbled upon volunteering for youth. Not exactly YAP, but something just pointed me in the direction of working with the youth, kind of like big brother, big sister. And now I'm here. So I just wanted to, again, come spread a little bit of awareness of what the epidemic really looks like, and hopefully you all understand how to work with victims a little bit. Thank you.